Hello everyone, and welcome to the 209th episode of Analyzing Evil, featuring Dalien Brock from Star Wars Legends. Featured in the novel Dawn of the Jedi Into the Void, Dalien Brock offers us an interesting perspective on the Force that has rarely been seen in Star Wars media. And though his story isn't too intricate, as you could probably tell by the length of this video, what his person and struggle have to offer us is certainly worth noting, as you'll soon discover. With our coverage of Dalien, this will be the last time we encounter the precursor to the Jedi Order, and if you haven't been following my new string of Star Wars related content, be sure to check out the playlist on my channel so you can catch up. Now without further ado, let's begin. After the Tho-Yor had spirited countless people from various species across the galaxy to Tython in the year 36,453 BBY, a society of Force users flourished and founded the precursor to the Jedi Order, with those who weren't Force-sensitive and thus incapable of weathering Tython's volatile Force-rich climate, colonizing the surrounding planets in the system. And protected by the anomalies surrounding the system from being traversed by outside entities, Tython society became one of the most prosperous and secure in the galaxy. However, that security came at a price. Just as outsiders couldn't enter the system, traveling out of the system through regular means was also impossible, the only pathway being through hyperspace, and the technology designed to traverse it wouldn't become widely available until some 10,000 years after the Tho-Yor arrived in Tython. Now, while life in the Tython system wasn't perfect, it was comfortable and varied enough that its inhabitants had plenty to keep them happy and occupied, with several planets and moons to explore and colonize, and a variety of species making life in the system full of possibilities. Despite this, there were always some amongst the Tythons that wished to branch out from their little corner of the galaxy, to explore the vastness of space and return to the worlds they had left behind when the Tho-Yor brought their ancestors to the system. And one such individual was the subject of our video, Dalien Brock. Born to two unnamed Jedi Masters, Dalien was a Force-sensitive human male who wanted to be anything but. Unlike most people who consider their attunement to the Force to be a blessing, Dalien felt as if the Force was a curse. He despised the way people could reach into his mind and read his thoughts, how using the Force trivialized otherwise exemplary feats of strength and intellect. And most importantly, he felt as if the Force, rather than being a source of energy that bound all lives together and enhanced one's existence through the use of it, was a malevolent aspect of the universe that coaxed those who could hear its call into becoming slaves to it, ruling their destinies and depriving them of all agency in their lives, which is exemplified for us in a conversation he had with his sister Lannery during their great journey. "You really think I'm jealous of you, of Mother and Father, and those others we trained with back there. Jealous that none of you are your own masters. Of course we are. No." He places his plate down and stands, not angry, but frustrated. "No, not at all. You're slaves to the Force. You might think it serves you, but you serve it. You never have your own thoughts, because the Force is always on your mind. You never fight your own fights, because the Force fights for you." Now, abiding to this type of thinking might not be a bad thing, as everyone is free to interpret the Force and its effects on the universe in any way they wish. However, Dalien was a child of the Jedi, and as a Force-sensitive scion of the Order, he was all but forced to embark on a path that would eventually lead to him becoming a Jedi of his own. And it's through his direct and continued contact with the Force that he was pushed towards developing a dangerous ideology. To Dalien, Tython was a prison, with the Tho-Yor being tools of oppression that had forced his ancestors to come to this world not knowing the gravity of their choice to do so. And as he embarked on what the Jedi called the Great Journey to learn how to become a Jedi with his sister Lannery, his view of the Force, as well as his penchant for dwelling on the fact that he was incapable of escaping the Tython system, began to corrupt him. "Even at the beginning of our journey, I feel like a rock in the river of the Force. Lannery is a fish carried by that river, feeding from it, living within it, relying on the waters for her well-being. But I am unmoving, an inconvenience to the water as long as I remain, and slowly I am being eroded to nothing." A quote from the diary of Dalien Brock. Resistant to his Force sensitivity, Dalien struggled with the lessons that his masters tried to teach him, part of which was due to his seemingly lesser Force sensitivity, but mostly because he detested the Force so much that he often refused to use it when instructed to do so, preferring instead to conquer his lessons through practical means. Because his masters and fellow students did use the Force though, Dalien always failed to complete his lessons, which only frustrated him ever further, and by the time he and his sister had reached the Temple of Anil-Kesh, the final stop in their great journey, Dalien finally knew what he wanted to do with his life. Murdering a fellow student when said student was supposed to escort him off the premises as punishment for a recent transgression, Dalien fled to a place called the Old City, a massive ruinous complex that was either built or inhabited long ago by the Gree species, one of the earliest species with access to interplanetary travel in the galaxy due to their development of a specialized technology known as hypergates. Lannery chased her brother to the Old City in an attempt to convince her brother to return home with her, which she unfortunately failed to do. and as his sister was pursuing him, Dalien chose to give himself a new lease on life by faking his death, news of which Lannery brought back to Anil Kesh with her brother's bloodied robe as proof of his demise. At some point, Dalien linked up with a cult known as the Stargazers, a group of individuals who desired to leave the Tython system much as Dalien did. And despite his refusal to absorb fully the lessons his Jedi masters attempted to impart upon him, Dalien collected every scrap of knowledge he found useful during his great journey to aid him in his goal of making it out of the Tython system. Knowledge that helped him to discover a way to completely sever his connection to the Force, to the point that when a Jedi attempted to probe him, they found nothing but a void, neither light nor dark, which aided him greatly in concealing himself from any prying eyes. Dalien operated in secret for a total of 9 years, his continued existence only being revealed to the Jedi after a rather influential Stargazer and former Jedi herself, Kara, chose to inform them of his existence, reasons for which we'll discuss a little later on. And after learning that Dalien was alive and plotting to do something that could endanger every living creature in the system, the Jedi tasked his sister Lannery with finding and stopping him. Now, though its existence is never confirmed, we can assume that when Dalien fled to the depths of the Old City, he discovered a hypergate, as during the 9 years he was operating covertly in the system, Dalien had pointed his efforts towards a single goal: the creation of a strange device powered by dark matter that would have been used to power the dormant hypergate that he and the Stargazers could then use to leave the system. Now, you might be saying to yourself, what's so evil about wanting to leave a star system? There's no harm in wanting to explore the galaxy, right? Right. But it's not what Dalien was trying to do that was evil. It was how he was trying to do it. In order to keep himself hidden all these years, Dalien managed to ingrain himself thoroughly in a sect of the Stargazers and gain for himself a cabal of followers that were fanatically loyal to him and his cause. And they were so loyal to him that they would often kill for him if necessary and blow themselves up if they were ever caught in an unfavorable situation. A more extreme example of the lengths he was willing to go to is shown to us towards the climax of this story, as when Lannery and her partner Trey-Sana had closed in on Dalien's location on the planet Nox, a manufacturing planet completely covered in toxic fumes that forced its inhabitants to live in domed cities. He ordered some of his followers to murder a few CEOs with Lannery's Jedi sword and pointed them towards Green Station, a city that still had covert dealings with the Jedi through the underground technology center Dalien contracted to build his device, which prompted the Jedi-hating people of Nox to target Green Station with weapons of war that then led to the deaths of thousands of innocents, if not millions. As terrible as all that is, whatever crimes Dalien committed to keep himself hidden from the Jedi pale in comparison to what would have happened if he managed to activate his device. Because the device was fueled by dark matter, it was theorized that when it came in contact with the hypergate, it would open up a massive black hole that would swallow the Tython system, which would have caused the deaths of billions of innocent people. And while toying with such tech is insane, Dalien foolishly believed that he was capable of controlling a force that he barely understood, one that even its creators claimed was pushing the limits of science. I wish you'd understood. I wish you could have opened your mind to our past. Your force is so constricting. You think it gives you power. You're taught that it's great, but it binds you. You're blinkered by it, but my eyes are wide open. We see the stars. We have a place in the universe that was taken from us by the Thoyor. They stole us away, brought us here, denied us the future we deserved, and I'm going to take it back. You'll kill everyone. No, Dalien said, smiling. I know what I'm doing. Dark matter, Gree technology, Dalien. You're playing with something beyond anything we can even hope to understand. Lannery nodded at the bodies still steaming and twitching in the corner. You heard them. Even they said that thing is the edge of known science, and edges break away. Now, though the device creating a black hole was only a theory, leaving such a thing up to chance would be folly. And so, after charging up the device in the depths of the planet Sunspot and taking it back to Tython, Lannery was forced to end her brother's life in the depths of the Old City to prevent him from activating his device. As harrowing as what Dalien planned to accomplish was, though, it's interesting to note what happened to Dalien as he became more and more obsessed with leaving Tython. By the time Lannery reunited with him on Nox, Dalien had essentially become a monk, eschewing all worldly desires in favor of absolute commitment to his goals. He wore only a simple robe, didn't care to groom himself much, and his eyes had become hardened and filled with nothing but a stalwart conviction to see his designs through to the end. Something that Lannery referred to as madness, and madness it was. Something that the Stargazers not completely allied to Dalien could see, as the reason Kara informed the Jedi of Dalien's activities is because she, and the rest of the Stargazers, feared what might happen if he were to succeed. To desire freedom isn't a bad thing, as many people who are told they need to be someone, or abide by certain principles, choose to forge their own path separate from what others expect of them. However, some people will do anything to achieve what they perceive to be freedom, even if it would hurt countless others in the process. When it comes down to it though, Dalien was caught in a childish dream from which he could not awake. When he's having his final confrontation with Lannery at the end of this story, and she remarks that he's a bad man, he responds by saying he's fighting for what he believes in. Though that might be true, his fight for what he believed in was rooted in the legendary and the broad, a fixation that caused him to cling to a solution that he knew little about, and one that was never guaranteed to work. Despite this, what Dalien truly wanted was peace, to live apart from a cosmic force that pushed and pulled on his psyche and tried to make him into something he never wanted to be. And one can surely not fault him for having such desires, but we can fault him for wanting to achieve his goals without any regard for innocent life. A man who would have traded billions of innocence just so he could rest amongst the stars. And for that, Dalien Brock was, and will always remain, an evil man. Thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Analyzing Evil, and I hope you've enjoyed. What are your thoughts on Dalien Brock? Did I miss anything? Let me know down below, and leave a suggestion for a villain you'd like to see featured while you're at it. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button, and make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. A big thank you to all of my subscribers, my patrons, my members, and anyone who's decided to honor me with a super thank. And a most vile thank you to those whose names you're seeing on screen now. Join the channel's Discord server and subreddit to interact with myself and the community, and follow me on the social media platforms listed below to keep up with the channel. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll be seeing you soon.